Hello, my name is Larry Jarbo, and I co-edit a monthly magazine in Southern Maryland called The Chesapeake, along with my publisher Ken Rosingall. And Ken and I have books available on Amazon and other fine e-book distributors. In addition, I've got my wife here today. Carlene is not only fluent in video programming and putting all the electronic package together, she's also a very good Spanish teacher.
Buenos días. Si hay preguntas después, pregúntame, por favor.
So if you should ever need us for presentations, we come as a package deal. She's the video programmer, the Spanish translator, and I'm the talker, so to speak. In addition to talking, I'm also versed in estrogen resources technology, oceanography, and I'm a 4-term county commissioner in St. Mary's County, Maryland, and looking forward to this, my final term, and moving on to fishing and diving anywhere from the Chesapeake Bay down to the Florida Keys, down through the Caribbean, and all across the world, literally. So today here, we're to discuss great wrecks of gold and silver. I've broken this up into 4 different categories, 4 different wrecks, and the people who've salvaged those wrecks. And today we're only going to talk about the first one because we're limited for time. Oftentimes, as people get on the cruise ships, say for example in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Port Canaveral, they get on, they see the blue ocean, they see the things around them when you get out on the ocean, and you don't realize that literally beneath the boat there's millions and billions of dollars of gold and silver laying on the bottom in different shipwrecks and scattered throughout the bottom. So we're here today to discuss what would it take to find one of those shipwrecks and the people who found those wrecks. Beneath the surface, there is gold and silver. Are you willing to take the effort to find it? Some people are lucky. Some people walk out on the beach and pick up a Spanish piece of 8, or even luckier, a gold coin or a piece of gold chain that might have been left from the past. But most folks have to work at it very hard. And one of the people who's truly paid the price, who's paid it over the years, was a man named Mel Fisher. This is a picture of Mel in front of his museum. And almost everyone dreams of finding sunken treasure, but few are willing to pay the real price. And Mel paid the price and is really the greatest treasure hunter of modern times. America's greatest treasure hunter, Mel Fisher, lived from August 21st, 1922 to December 19th, 1998. He started life as a chicken farmer in Indiana. From humble beginnings, many of the treasure hunters begin. Mel moved to California. He was very progressive. He opened up the first dive shop in the state. And does anybody here remember the TV show Sea Hunt? That was Lloyd Bridges, and he played the character of Mike Nelson. And if you remember that, you're as old as I am. Mel's wife, Dolores, became his business partner. She was one of the first women scuba divers and set a women's diving record by staying underwater continuously for over 50 hours. In 1962, Kip Wagner convinced the Fisher family to move to South Florida to salvage the 1715 plate fleet on a 50-50 basis. Now remember the name Kip Wagner because that'll come back in a later presentation about the 1715 plate fleet. After a year of searching off the east coast of Florida, Mel struck gold, which was over 1,000 gold coins, with his mailbox dredge invention. The mailbox dredge was a unique Fisher design. Before the mailbox dredge, they would actually suction up the bottom through a suction pump, and then it would go through a sluice on the boat, and they would sift through the sediments, they would sift through the coral rocks and the chunks of bottom to find the bits of say, pieces of 8, or Spanish coins, or gold, emeralds, whatever. They would sift through on the boat. What Mel did was design a housing that went over the propeller. It looked like a mailbox, and that housing, when you turn the boat on and put it in gear, it would suction stuff through, and it would actually blow the water through, and then it would blow it down through a tube which he directed on the bottom, and literally blew the bottom away. And when he saw these 1,000 gold coins, when he finally hit the right part of this particular wreck, that was Kip Wagner's wreck, but he was working it for Kip. He said it was like a highway of gold that he witnessed, and from that point he was hooked. Around 1969, Mel shifted to the Florida Keys to search for the Nuestra Senora de Atocha, which was lost in 1622. On July 13, 1975, his eldest son, Dirk, and Dirk's wife, Angel, died in a capsize offshore of Key West with fellow diver Rick Gage. What a terrible price to pay in pursuit of treasure. Now, as this boat capsized, we know that 3 people died. Basically, his son, his daughter-in-law, and a fellow diver. This is one of the kind of prices that treasure divers pay in the pursuit of treasure. Rough weather. It's not always easy. The price is sometimes very high. Rick Gage was the son of Carl Gage, who was working in the Upper Keys. Carl ran a dive boat, the Coral Sea. No, it wasn't the Coral Sea. Ran a dive boat out of Upper Key Largo. And I knew Carl a little bit at the time. I was working down in the Keys at the time. And about that time, Carl moved away, and he went out west and ran hot air balloons. So I don't know if this precipitated that event, but it's kind of strange as we do our research and discover things that we never knew about the people that we worked with. In 1980, Mel Fisher discovered the sister ship to his coveted Atocha wreck. Santa Margarita, which was also lost in 1622, delivered up $20 million in treasure to the persistent treasure hunter from Key West. Carlene and I were down in the Keys at this time. I remember that particular vessel being found. This is a picture of a Spanish galleon, not necessarily the Santa Margarita, but the same design that it would have been. This was just the beginning. Finally, on July 20, 1985, a decade after the tragic death of his son and daughter-in-law, Mel Fisher discovered the Spanish galleon Atocha, which delivered more treasure than King Tut's tomb. And if we look over here and watch the stern castle going down, I want you to remember that, because that's important to the end of this discussion. The Nuestra Senora de Atocha, Our Lady of Atocha, was the most famous galleon of the Spanish fleet that sunk in the hurricane of 1922 off the Florida Keys. 1622. Okay. On September 6th, Atocha and the other ships were driven into coral reefs near the Dry Tortugas, west of Key West. Only 3 sailors and 2 slaves survived. And this is the end of the Dry Tortugas. This is actually Fort Jefferson at the end. It's about 70 miles away from Key West. You can take a seaplane to get there. It was built with 16 million bricks. It was used as a prison later on to house Dr. Mudd. If you remember Dr. Mudd from the Booth assassination of President Lincoln. So it's a wonderful place to visit. There's coral reefs all around this particular area where you can snorkel, take a day trip, either a seaplane or one of the boat trips out of Key West and visit Fort Jefferson. Since the ship, the Atocha, went down to 55 feet of water, it was difficult for the Spanish salvors to recover cargo or guns, so they were able to recover half the goods aboard the Santa Margarita, which sunk in shallower water. And if you'll notice this particular pile of rocks here, those are ballast rocks. Those are the rocks that are in the bottom of the ship. And when the ship goes down and the ship breaks apart or decomposes, the rocks are still left. And that's what people traditionally look for, is ballast rocks. The challenge with the Atocha is it took 8 miles to break up. It actually left a debris field for a long distance. So as a result, the neat pile of ballast rocks, like you might have found up on other ships, just weren't to be found, and that's why it made it so difficult to find the Atocha over the years. This particular pile of ballast rocks is the San Pedro. It's off of Tavernier. It's in protected waters now. Nobody can salvage it because it's part of the John Pennekamp State Park and the Florida Keys Marine Sanctuary. There the Atocha lay until Mel Fisher's salvage crew discovered her again in 1985. However, the state of Florida laid a 25% claim to the wreck that Mel had spent years discovering. After 8 years in litigation, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of Mel Fisher. So again,